Chapman, will provide a briefing on the NTSB's investigation into Tuesday's natural gas explosion, and then we'll take your questions. And with him is investigator in charge, Kim West.
Can you spell the name one more time?
Chapman, Chapman.
Good afternoon, and thank you for your interest. I'm Tom Chapman. I'm a board member with the National Transportation Safety Board. I'm joined by our investigator in charge, Kim West. I want to begin by extending our most sincere condolences to those impacted by this tragedy. On behalf of all of us at NTSB, we extend our sincere sympathies to the friends and families of those victims of this tragedy. And we want you to know that we are very, very sorry for your loss. We are grateful to and want to commend the law enforcement and first responders personnel who participated in the emergency response, as well as the hospital staff responsible for treating the injured. Yesterday, NTSB launched a team to investigate the Tuesday afternoon explosion of a building in downtown Youngstown. The incident resulted in at least one fatality and multiple serious injuries. Our investigation is a safety investigation. It is parallel to and will be coordinated with investigations on the part of other regulatory agencies. Here is what we know. On May 28, 2024, at 2:44 p.m. Eastern Time, an explosion occurred at the Realty Tower in Youngstown, Ohio, located at 47 East Federal Street. The building holds a Chase Bank branch, other offices, and residential apartments. Enbridge Gas of Ohio is the service provider for the area, and the main gas line that serviced the affected address runs in front of the damaged building along East Federal Street and Market Street. Subsequent to the explosion, Public Utilities Commission of Ohio, which is the regulatory authority, and Enbridge Gas gained access to the basement. A below-ground service line that was pressurized but not actively servicing the building was found to be cut. Enbridge Gas then cut off and plugged the service where it connected to the basement. Tests were then run to confirm that the steps to depressurize the inactive service line were successful. Preliminary information suggests that work crews were present in the basement of the building for the purpose of clearing out old utility infrastructure. A possible third-party cut to the pressurized service line is a central focus of our investigation to determine the cause of the gas release and subsequent explosion. Multidisciplinary investigators from NTSB's rail, pipeline, and hazardous materials teams arrived yesterday. This morning, I joined our investigators for a preliminary investigation of the explosion site. The NTSB team is led by Kim West, who is the investigator in charge. Kim is a 3-year veteran of the NTSB with an impressive background and history in both government and industry, all relating to pipeline safety. Kim and our team will examine the areas of operations and integrity management, survival factors, emergency response, and human performance. With regard to this tragedy, we are particularly interested in issues relating to gas line failure and system integrity management, third-party work in the vicinity of gas lines, and emergency response. In addition to our investigators, we have a specialist from our Office of Transportation Disaster Assistance on scene who will be working closely with the families and local agencies to provide support to those involved. Our investigative team will be on scene for approximately 1 week. A preliminary report is expected to be published in about 30 days. Final reports from NTSB take between 12 and 24 months to complete. I also want to offer additional information about the mission of the National Transportation Safety Board. NTSB is an independent federal agency. We are charged by Congress with investigating every civil aviation accident in the United States and significant accidents in railroad, highway, marine, and pipeline. We also issue safety recommendations aimed at preventing future accidents. We are closely working with the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio, and other federal, state, and local agencies. We are grateful for the support of these agencies. We encourage witnesses or those with information relevant to the investigation, including any video footage, to contact the NTSB by email at witness@ntsb.gov. And let me repeat the email address. It's witness@ntsb.gov. Our investigators will work to thoroughly document relevant evidence and gather additional factual information. Our mission is to understand not just what happened, but why it happened, and to recommend changes to prevent it from happening again. We will not be determining the probable cause of the accident while we are on scene, nor will we speculate about the cause. These are the first steps in a lengthy investigatory process. Once again, we extend our condolences to the families, and we thank the first responders for their efforts. With that, I'm happy to take questions, and if you have a question, please raise your hand and identify yourself and your media affiliation. Yes, sir.
Jack Shea, Fox 8 News in Cleveland. Are you able to tell us what work was going on in the basement and what those workers told you happened?
It's too early in the process. That's certainly one of the things we'll be evaluating. We're hoping to be able to identify the workers and interview them as well and get their perspective.
So there were some witnesses who said that they heard what they thought was a broken line and thought that they smelled natural gas. Are you able to confirm that, and what can you, I guess, can you illuminate that situation?
We do know that the cut line was discovered after the explosion. As I indicated, the representatives of the Public Service Commission, Public Utilities Commission, and the gas company were able to enter the basement. They did find a line that had been cut, and that line was pressurized.
Are you able to, when you say cut, are you able to say if it was a leak, or did someone actually cut through the line?
We'll have to determine exactly what the source of that was, but we do have the line. We do know that it was cut.
Now, when you said it was inactive, are you able to elaborate on that?
I'm going to ask Kim to elaborate a little bit. Let me take a stab. This was a service line coming off the main line. It was a service line leading to the property, but it was not servicing. It was essentially abandoned. It was not servicing the property at the time, but it was found subsequently to be pressurized, meaning it had gas in it. Kim, did I get that right?
That's correct.
Okay. I'm learning.
Kim, do you want to address that?
You want to
Actually,
elaborate?
you did very
Did
well.
I? Okay. There we go.
Got it.
I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
So, a line that's not in service, there should be no gas in it, is that right?
Ideally, there should be no gas in it.
So with your experience, is there any way that you can say how that could have happened?
That'll be part of what we'll be investigating to determine exactly why that apparently abandoned service line was still pressurized. Yes, ma'am.
I just have a quick question, because you said it was cut and you were investigating the cause of it. So are you could this possibly be an act of domestic terrorism at all?
No, there's no evidence at all that there was anything nefarious about what happened.
And just to follow up on that, it's an old building. You know, a lot of these old buildings have asbestos in it. Were any of the fumes toxic at all?
I'm not aware, but I think that's part of what we'll be looking at, too, to determine exactly what the hazards may have been other than the explosion and the exposure to gas.
Hi, I'm Madison with WFNJ.
NTSB doing to find out who's accountable for the cut line? And is there any potential negligence of the owners of this building?
Well, I want to just stress that our role is not to assign blame or fault. Our role is to determine what happened. So we're not looking to determine negligence. We're not looking to determine fault. We're just looking to determine what the facts are. Once we determine what those facts are, we will make them available to the public through a final report. There are other forms for determining whether there was negligence or fault. That's just not our role.
Typically, what would be the event in which a line would get cut? Like what type of things would happen that would lead to that?
Well, one of the things we are examining, as I indicated, is third-party work in the presence of these lines and whether that may have been a factor in this line being cut.
Tom, can you describe the work that was being done in the basement?
What we know is that there was work being done in the basement, reportedly to clear out old infrastructure, essentially artifacts of old infrastructure, such as pipes, such as wires, that sort of thing. That's what we understand. That's still part of what we're investigating. We haven't established that definitively.
Just so I'm clear, I'm sorry, Denise Dick from the Business Journal. The third party would be the that you're talking about would be the people, the workers, right?
Yes, correct.
All right.
Yeah, in other words, someone other than the gas company or public utilities or someone who might ordinarily be working on gas lines.
Do we know if those folks checked with the PUCO before they started digging and cutting and removing?
We don't know. Still too early in the investigation.
What is the proper procedure when you're doing that? Is that something you're supposed to follow?
Well, part of what we'll be looking at is what are the proper procedures and were those proper procedures followed? Yes, ma'am.
Is it common practice for the NTSB to look into all natural gas leaks or explosions in this nature? Or is there something that prompted the NTSB to look into this one specifically?
Yeah, we do not look at all natural gas explosions. We focus our attention on those that we think might have some particular impact in terms of safety. Certainly from a national perspective, whether there might be lessons that can be learned that can be shared with others to ensure we don't have similar sorts of circumstances. In this case, we have a long-standing concern about third-party work in the vicinity of gas lines. That's a major element in this investigation. We're also concerned about gas line system integrity. Here we have a line that apparently was an abandoned line and yet was pressurized. We want to learn more about why that happened and what we can do to help ensure that that doesn't happen again in the future.
Do you know how long the gas was leaking?
I don't know exactly how long the gas was leaking. Kim, it's my understanding this happened very quickly, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Is this a common
Yes, sir.
occurrence in older buildings?
I don't think it's a common occurrence, no. I mean, I'm sure you hear about this sort of thing happening from time to time, but it's not common. This is a particularly catastrophic. We were down this morning to see the site, and the damage down there is stunning. Other questions?
Stunning in its,
It's
rest of it?
devastating, yeah. It's the damage to the building is devastating, yeah. Yeah. It's difficult to get a perspective from the photos and the video that you've seen, but when you're up close to it and you see how deep it goes down into the basement area and how much damage there was and the size of the structures that were damaged, it gets your attention. Yes, ma'am.
Is the NTSB looking into the structure of the building and if what's going to happen next for that building and if it's safe?
Our focus is on the explosion, the accident, and the events leading up to it, and then the emergency response. What happens with the building going forward is beyond our level of expertise. That's the sort of thing that state and local authorities will determine. So that is not part of our investigation, and it won't be something that we'll be participating in. Yes, ma'am.
Desiree Gosselin, Spectrum News. I just want to make sure I understand the timeline. So there was, the gas company came in and they found a cut in the line and they fixed it, but they didn't depressurize it at that time?
This was after the explosion.
After the explosion.
After the
okay.
explosion, the public utilities and the gas company were able to gain access to the basement. It's my understanding, I believe, that they were accompanied by firefighters because it's a very dangerous situation. They discovered this essentially abandoned service line. They determined that it was still pressurized. There were a variety of tests that they ran to make that determination. Once they determined that it was still pressurized, they took steps to cut it off and cap it and then depressurize it. So these were steps taken after the explosion to essentially eliminate that hazard. I thank you all very much for your interest. Peter, it's my understanding we'll be keeping you posted in terms of any potential additional briefings through Twitter or X or whatever we're calling it this week.
And that report in 30 days, would that be via Twitter or will that be?
We'll announce the release of that report. It'll also be on our website. And
in
again,
about 30 days?
that report will be entirely factual. The finding of probable cause and making of recommendations will be in the final report. Thank you very much.
Yeah, just keep an eye on our Twitter feed. It's on for if we do another media briefing or not.
Sure.
We would announce on our Twitter feed.